Hello, everybody. This is your daily real estate exam practice question, and this is a good one. The question is when earnest money is left on deposit with a broker or a lawyer, which of the following is true? So, we have a debit credit situation here that goes to basically the closing disclosure, how that's going to look, and people always get confused with this. So, before I even dive into the questions, an easy way to remember how to identify if it's something that is a credit to a buyer, a debit to a buyer, a credit to a seller, or a debit to the seller, what you have to understand is that the closing disclosure is basically trying to figure out one, how much money the buyer needs to bring to the closing table. Okay. Two, how much money the seller is going to walk away with from the closing table. Okay. So the question then goes like this. Okay. This money, this earnest money, is funds that the buyer has already put aside that's going to be brought to closing for them. So they do not need to bring this to closing. Anything that they need to bring to closing, okay, or that needs to be charged to them is going to be a debit. If it's going to be brought to the table for them, it's a credit, okay? So let's look at the answers. A, it is a debit to the buyer. Again, these are funds they don't need to bring to the closing table, and we've identified that debits are funds needed. Okay? Debits are funds needed. Okay? And then I'm also going to say that credits, okay, credits are funds not needed. Okay? Meaning, basically, again, credits are things that have already been taken into consideration or are things that are going to be brought to the table by someone else, right? So, it is a debit to the buyer. Again, this isn't funds needed. So, in this answer, no, it's not going to be a debit to the buyer. It's a debit to the seller. Okay, so does the seller need to bring this money to the table? No, they're being credited the purchase price, okay? And this is going to go towards the purchase price, but the buyer doesn't need to bring this to the table. So it's already been taken into consideration. So it is not a debit to the seller. We know it's C, so let's look at D. It is a credit to the seller. Well, these weren't the seller's funds, and it's already being rolled into the purchase price. So the seller's being credited the purchase price, and that's already, so this is a portion of the purchase price. So it is not that it's a credit to the seller because this isn't something that the seller would get credit for because this is not funds that are not needed. So this isn't anything to do with the seller. This is going to be a credit to the buyer. So it's going to be a credit to the buyer because the buyer doesn't need to bring these funds to the closing table. They've already put those funds up, and that's going to go towards the purchase price, which is going to be a credit to the seller. Guys, have a great one, and I will talk to you soon.